I'm joined now by reporter John Kipper, who's going to be putting together a story a day on concussions in football and how football is changing to prevent them. Now, John, one thing I wanted to ask more about, you talked about how coaches have changed in terms of their training. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I guess I want to start out with, first of all, youth football is very, very unregulated. It's pretty much to each individual league to how they want to handle things. Now, thankfully, the Omaha Metro has really consolidated things. So what they're doing in Millard, they're also doing in Papillion, etc. And so what they're doing is they're making their coaches take 7 hours worth of training before the season even starts. And this isn't just the head coaches that we just heard from. This is every single assistant. If you're going to help out on the practice field, you're taking 7 hours of training through USA Football. So it's pretty intense. As you might imagine, that's pretty time consuming. And so a few people told me, like, look, we might have lost a few guys because they just didn't have time to do this before the season. But overall, with everything that we're talking about with how dangerous concussions can be, they have to do it, and it's certainly worth maybe losing a coach or two.
Sure, something they're making a priority for sure. Now, when you look at NFL hits, college hits, even high school hits, you have big, strong guys hitting each other hard. You can see almost when you have that type of impact. The hits at this level, I have to imagine, aren't as rough.
By no means. And the league director even has a quote that says, you know, third and fourth graders, which is where they start them at, it's like pillow fighting. And so obviously you're not going to get an incredibly amount of very hard hits with that. So the 8th grade coach who we talked to, he says he's kind of been through every level and he's only seen 1 in 11 years. So not a lot. And that league director I mentioned had both of his kids go through the league and says he just remembers 1 or 2 of them. So obviously they're not happening a ton, which is a good thing, but it's football. It can still happen.
Yeah, for this story, you talked to a few kids. You showed a couple of them there. Is this something they're talking about, thinking about their kids?
Yeah, 8th graders, 13-year-old boys don't really care much about a lot of things, and they want to play tackle football. They want to get out of flag football because they want to hit other boys. And so, no, to answer your question, they really shook it off. They didn't give very long answers when I asked them why. They just kind of was almost confused why I was there. Like, what? Concussions? It just isn't a really big deal to them. And they mentioned in a lot of the games and practices, and these were 8th graders, so a lot of them have been playing since 3rd grade. They say they rarely, if ever, have seen a concussion.
Yeah, and you can speak on that because, you know, you used to be an 8th grade
boy.
Sure did. So, okay, 2 stories down. What can we expect for the rest of the week?
Okay, so we're sticking with youth football tomorrow. We're talking specifically to the parents. So it's much more narrowed tomorrow because, as you know, every parent in Omaha area, every parent in the country is really evaluating if my kid wants to play football, do I let him? The parents I talked to let their kids play football. They really didn't have a problem with it for the most part. And I even talked to a former Husker football player who's a pretty well-known guy. He, as you might imagine, had a unique perspective on things. So that was certainly interesting. And yeah, every parent, as I kind of mentioned, was a little bit different in their reasoning on why they decided to let their boy play.
Okay, look forward to the future coverage. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jay.